The PlayStation Store's Golden Week sale is concluding tomorrow, and I did want to make a video looking at the top 10 deals, so hopefully you guys can watch this video and you can make some decisions on whether or not you want to pick some games up. A lot of good deals. Again, it's a Golden Week sale, so a lot of Japanese games, a lot of Japanese RPGs, so if that's up your alley, a lot of good stuff to pick from. But with that out of the way, let's get into the 10 games. First of all, Gravity Rush 2 is 50% off for $9.99. One of the saddest stories in all of gaming, to be honest, is that Gravity Rush never really took off at the level that I thought it should have. I loved Gravity Rush 1 on the PlayStation Vita. Gravity Rush 2 is just an evolution of that, and it is so much better than the first game. The first game was really good, but this one improves in nearly every area. A lot more content, but that Gravity Rush gameplay and that unique gameplay is still there, and it works really well with the traditional controller. One of those games that unfortunately we'll probably never see a Gravity Rush 3 unless, you know, that like cult following really develops over the next few years, but at the very least you should definitely play Gravity Rush 2. You should play Gravity Rush 1 as well, but number 2 is on sale, and for 10 bucks, pretty good pickup. Next up, I feel like this is always going to be a slam dunk easy recommendation. NieR Automata Game of the YoRHa edition is $19.99. Yes, maybe you think that's still a little bit too expensive given that the game originally came out, I believe, in 2017, but relevant recommendation right now, NieR Replicant just dropped. I just beat that. I had a great time with that game, and you should play NieR Automata as well. Platinum Games just did a killer job with this game. I mean, from a gameplay standpoint, it was so good, and it has that action gameplay that you know and love from them, but at the same time, interesting story that may be a little bit confusing initially, but it really comes together. Visuals are great, and of course, the music is absolutely tremendous. Like, if you can say anything about NieR, that music is amazing. And for $19.99, another pretty good pickup here. Next up, Zone of the Enders, the second runner Mars, $8.99. That's 70% off. Zone of the Enders is another one of those franchises that's kind of like that cult classic that a lot of people really liked, but unfortunately we never saw it really resonate at a high level. Or at least at a mainstream level, I should say, but it's a really enjoyable mecha title. The story is, you know, kind of weird at times, but gameplay-wise, I'm a big fan of mecha titles, and I think Zone of the Enders did a really good job. That's a genre that we need more high-quality games out of as well. Like, the Gundam games are usually what they are. They're not really home runs, but Zone of the Enders I thought was a really good one, and maybe someday something will happen and we'll get a Zone of the Enders 3. But at the very least, go check out Zone of the Enders, the second runner. This is a pretty good upgrade from the PS2 version as well, so that's definitely nice. Too bad they didn't release, like, this in the collection, so we could get Zone of the Enders 1 and 2. You just get the second game, which is kind of weird. But nevertheless, for the price, I still thought it was a good pickup. Next up, obviously, Final Fantasy games are on sale. The one that I would gravitate towards is Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age. I've recommended this one quite a few times. I loved Final Fantasy XII. It was one of those games that when it came out back in 06, it was a little bit controversial, probably just because of its battle system. The battle system is more akin to that of an MMO, but I think a lot of people have gotten accustomed to that battle style, and, you know, a lot of people prefer it over a traditional turn-based title. But FF12 was solid, and the Zodiac Age makes it much better with a lot of upgrades, and I really enjoyed the story. Like, man, Vaughn wasn't a great main character, but I thought the other characters in the game were really good. I thought there were a lot of good twists and turns through the story. And it's a game with a ton of content, a ton of additional content, optional content that you can really get invested into, and if you want to do everything, that's going to take you quite a while. $25 is steep, given that, yeah, it's a game from 06 that's been heavily upgraded, but it's from 06. But given the amount of content you get, I still think it's a pretty solid pickup. Next up, Dragon's Crown Pro is only $4.99. This is an excellent deal. I think this matches the previous low that Dragon's Crown hit. If you guys know Vanillaware, you know what to expect here. A very artistic 2D action RPG. It's very enjoyable. Odin Sphere Left Tracer is also on sale, but that's $17.99. A little bit pricey. That game, like, doesn't go with the deep discounts all that often, but for whatever reason, Dragon's Crown Pro often hits, you know, the sub $10 range. For $5, Dragon's Crown Pro is a really good pickup, and if you're looking for a good 2D action RPG, again, you're gonna enjoy this one. If you want to spend a little bit more money, I did prefer Odin Sphere, so that gets a recommendation as well if you guys are interested in that. Next up, we have .hack GU Last Recode, which is 85% off for $7.49. Now, I'll be straight up honest with you guys. This is a game and a franchise that I'm a little bit biased with, just because it wasn't one of the absolute first JRPGs I played, but it was one that really resonated with me at a level that a lot of other games didn't. And I'm always going to have this game in a fond place in my heart. I loved it back in the day. Like, you're talking to somebody that spent $50 a pop on each of those games, maybe $40 or $50. It was really lame how they did it, but now you get all 3 games with the smaller 4th episode in one collection for $7.49. Now, the games do show their age a little bit. You know, stiff animations, voice acting's not absolute top-notch. And there is a lot of backtracking to the same locations and places that look the same in the game, but there's a lot to like about the game as well. Gameplay, battle system, I think is really good. I think the characters are compelling. I think they're all pretty different. They all have layers to them, and the story itself is very engaging as well. And I think all those elements combine together to make a pretty good set of JRPGs. Relatively lengthy in length as well, and I think you guys are going to end up enjoying. Give it a shot, $7.49. Essentially, you're paying $2.50 for each of the games, so when you put it at it like that, super cheap. And a pretty good selection of music in the game as well. I quite like the soundtrack in it. The desktop theme in particular, that's one of my go-to songs. I just think that's one of the most mellow songs, and it's just a really, really good song. Next up, we have another game that I'm a big fan of the franchise in general. Valkyria Chronicles 4 is 50% off for $14.99. Alternatively, there is a complete edition with some extra DLC content for $25, so I'll let you guys make the decision on whether or not you want to get that version, but this is a great JRPG. I loved Valkyria Chronicles 1, and Valkyria Chronicles 4 fundamentally is very similar to that game. It's not like it's even a significant visual improvement or anything like that, but Valkyria Chronicles 1 works so well that you don't need to fix what isn't broken, and at the same time, they did add a new difficulty option because a lot of people had a hard time with Valkyria Chronicles 1. I know a lot of my buddies that played that game thought it was super challenging, and I was annoyed by the game sometimes with its difficulty. But for me, it never got to a point where I was like absolutely appalled at the game being so challenging. But yeah, Valkyria Chronicles 4 does have an easy mode if you want to go that route as well. Great cast of characters, strategy gameplay, obviously really good, and I love the visual style in these games as well. Hopefully at some point Sega will bring Valkyria Chronicles 3 over here to the States, because that is a PSP exclusive that was never released outside of Japan. And a lot of people actually think that's the best game in the series. I played it with a fan translation, and I had a great time with that, but it'd be nice if we had an official translation of that game. Nevertheless, Valkyria Chronicles 4 in itself, quite a good game, really good story. Love the way that they tell the story using a storybook, a little bit different than, you know, the traditional way you play a JRPG, but all the Valkyria Chronicles games follow that format. And VC4 is quite a good one. Next up, we have the Kingdom Hearts All-in-One package. It is 75% off for $24.99. This includes everything you need to get into Kingdom Hearts outside of the DLC for Kingdom Hearts 3, which that DLC isn't even very good. Kingdom Hearts 3 in general, I'm not a big fan of, but Kingdom Hearts 1 does show its age a little bit, but it's still a game that you can get into and play. Kingdom Hearts 2, I still think is absolutely awesome, and then you got Birth by Sleep in there as well. You have some cutscenes from other games. And then Kingdom Hearts 3 is still there, and you can have fun with Kingdom Hearts 3, but the story is just wild at this point if you play Kingdom Hearts 3. And it's not like Kingdom Hearts was always the easiest story to follow, but at the same time, Kingdom Hearts 3 just got wild. Also, of course, 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue is in here as well, and that'll get you Dream Drop Distance, so that's quite nice. Just a ton of content for your money, and yes, while I'm not a big fan of every single Kingdom Hearts game that ever came out, $25 for this is just such a good deal that I find it a little bit too difficult to pass up. Alright, next up, Star Ocean The Last Hope 4K and Full HD Remastered, $10.49 for this one. Another one of those games that got a remaster on the PS4. Played this all the way back on the Xbox 360 when it initially came out, and I quite like the game. There's a lot of things to like. Visuals still hold up pretty well. Battle system is a ton of fun. It should be noted, and I've said this before, the voice acting in this game is absolutely atrocious. The English voice acting is, honestly, you can make an argument that it's so bad that it gets funny, but like you really don't want to hit that territory once you have like 30-40 minute cutscenes, because that is a little bit of a disconnect to the experience. I do think the good absolutely outweighs the bad here. And you've got some great music in this one as well, and again, gameplay solid, music good, visuals still hold up pretty well. It's $10 and change. It's a game that a lot of you guys probably missed out on, and you don't want Star Ocean Integrity and Faithlessness to be your first Star Ocean game. Till the End of Time is also on sale right now. That is a PS2 on PS4 game, but it is a pretty good one, so that is an option to check out as well. That game is like super, super long, so just keep that in mind, but a lot of people do see Till the End of Time as the best game in the entire series. Lastly, I do want to give a shout to AI, the SOMNIUM file. Since we recommended so many JRPGs, how about we recommend something a little bit different? This is more of a story-driven game, a sci-fi murder mystery, and the story is definitely the standout, and if you're getting into this game, it's all about the story. You really don't want to go into it with any spoilers or anything like that. I think there's some jarring elements here and there with AI the SOMNIUM files, but for $24, if you're a fan of games like Danganronpa and Zero Escape, this is going to be right up your alley, and it's done by Spike Chunsoft. You're going to have a good time with it, and it's been pretty expensive for quite a while, but now it's finally coming down in price, and I think $24 is the perfect entry point for it, so check that out as well. Another games that has gotten a little bit lost in the shuffle over the last few years. But that's going to wrap up this one. Again, the Golden Week sale does end tomorrow, so you want to jump on these as soon as possible, because after tomorrow, the deals will no longer be there, but I'm sure they'll do another sale come Thursday or Friday. But that's going to wrap up this one. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.